I received a question about why nurses study policy. Specifically, I was asked what nursing students should get out of a health policy course. What I heard was, why is understanding policy important? So I tried to reflect on the reasons I think policy is important. And I came to a few answers. First, good policy is driven by research and evidence. In a health policy class, a nurse can expect to study models that can help to advance policy through the policy process and learn how to analyze the issue. In most classes, this is going to involve a policy analysis paper where you take a specific problem or a specific issue and you work through the stages of a policy analysis. This is a really excellent exercise because if you ever take a leadership position or a policy position, this is something you'll be expected to be able to do. Second, research and practice are both important, but it frequently takes policy changes to implement best practices. Your research is wonderful. It's important and it creates new knowledge. But if that research is stuck on the bench because there is a policy that won't allow it to be implemented, then it serves no purpose. It has no value. There has to be someone that can take your research and make sure that the proper policy is in place to implement it in practice. Third, good policy improves a society and provides for the most vulnerable. We all know that as individuals, most people are willing to look out for themselves. We're willing to do what it takes to get ahead. We're going to make sure that we have a roof over our heads, that we have food on the table, that we have health care for our children. But what we need to remember is that not everyone has the same abilities. Some people are born into situations where they require additional help. Take, for example, the Affordable Care Act. One of the elements that most people seem to like is that it basically said that it's no longer acceptable to exclude people from getting insurance that had pre-existing conditions. This was an important policy change that has allowed many people who previously couldn't get insurance, probably those who most needed it, to now be able to access it. So good policy improves access to care. Fourth, we all face issues in patient care, and those issues, we need to be able to move them to policy. Let's take an example of an issue that we would like to move from being a hot topic issue for us to a policy. And for most nurses, or at least most advanced practice nurses, we would like to have our full scope of practice recognized. In other words, we would like to be independent providers with full prescriptive authority and not be required to have collaborative agreements. In many states, about half of them now, that is not the case. As a graduate student who would be an advanced practice registered nurse, it's important to understand how you advocate for this policy change, and maybe how you get yourself in the position that you would be able to be the one that is actually driving the policy change. And then finally, and I guess to me this is one of the biggest issues, patient care allows a nurse to positively impact one life at a time. A nurse can positively impact millions of lives by changing policy. Sometimes you will hear the phrase, with the stroke of a pen, you can change millions of lives. That actually is the case if you're able to implement good policy. Take advantage of your policy course. Take advantage of going out and taking the opportunity to work with policy leaders in healthcare. Get to know your Congress people, your elected representatives. Make sure that at some point in your policy course, you even take the time to visit them. And finally, make sure you know who your nursing leaders are, the roles that your professional organizations play in advocating for changes to policy that will impact your career, as well as impact the health care of the nation and the outcomes.